Hello friends and welcome back to Crash Talk. Couple of things before we get started. First of all, I'm currently recording this as there are literal wildfires raging across LA County, so I will put resources in case you're in the area or in case you feel so inclined to assist in the description. Also, my hair is a mess. I apologize. Actually, no, I don't. I don't apologize, but I'm just saying I am thinking about it, so just know that. Anything else that I have to say? I might be in the same outfit for the next video. Just ignore that. On to what we're talking about today. So today we're going to be talking about a film that came out in 2013. And honestly, when this film first came out, I remember being like, this film was a flop. This film was a flop. And the entire world, the entire society that we exist in agreed. Everybody was like, this film was a flop. However, I rewatched this film recently and I was like, hold on a minute. This film is not giving as much of a flop as it was when I first watched it. And then I watched it again. And I was like, actually, no, this film is very much not giving as much flop as when I first watched it. That film, of course, being The Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, which came out in 2013, directed by Howard Zwart.
That was legitness.
Came out in 2013, directed by Howard Zwart. It stars Lily Collins and I forgot the man's name, Jamie Campbell. Lily Collins and Jamie Campbell, who happened to be dating, I think, at the time the film came out. So cute. They're not dating anymore, so womp womp. Now the world knows Jamie Campbell as Vecna. Shout out to Stranger Things.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
As I said, this film was a flop. It's supposed to be the first of clearly a series. It's based on the books by Cassandra Clare, the Mortal Instruments series. And I will say, I read the first, I think like 3 of these books. It was around the time that like my brain capacity stopped being brain capacity for finishing series. So about late middle school, early high school, and it was deep in my sort of like fantasy phase. So I remember really enjoying the books that I did read. When I read the rest of the summaries in prep for this video, it sounds like the series took quite a turn after literally the book that I stopped reading it on. So shout out to that. Honestly, as we chat today, I'm going to be talking mostly comparing the movie to the show. So the movie came out in 2013 and is now a standalone film because they didn't make the rest of the series. And then the show came out in 2016, which honestly, I feel like they exist in such different realms in my brain. And maybe because there was a literal like just global shift, timeline shift between 2013 and 2016. Can't imagine what happened to create that, but they exist in very different timelines in my brain. So the fact that they're only 3 years apart surprises me. Also surprises me because I remember the show doing really well. Like I feel like the show was received really well from people who both enjoyed the books and also like had not read the books before. And I think the show finished. Like the show like came to an end versus, you know, the movie series kind of getting canceled prematurely. Couple of interesting differences there. I will be kind of going back and forth. As I said, this isn't going to be like a comparison video, but I just think that it's fun to talk about the similarities, also because I watched the show because I liked the books, so I just have a lot of show knowledge in the back of my head. And I will say, I think that the film feels like grittier. It feels like it's not afraid to be ugly, and it feels like more of the kind of like, I don't want to say like underbelly of New York, but it feels more like in New York and not necessarily like glamorizing New York. With one exception, the like fancy Brooklyn apartment that Clary and her white mother live in. Let's talk about it, because your mom's an artist, a struggling artist at that, because you keep saying that her paintings aren't selling. How are you affording this Brooklyn apartment? Yeah, but as opposed to the show feels very glitzy, glamour, and to be fair, I think part of that is because it was on Freeform. Shout out to Freeform. Y'all remember Freeform? Y'all remember cable television? And Freeform has that very like bubblegum pop, like modern, sexy, like young adult type vibe. And the show represents that. Cable television used to be able to tell like, oh, that's a CW show, or like, oh, that's a that show. Can't really do that with streaming services anymore. I'm not going to get into it because I could talk about the streaming iceberg all day, so let's just keep talking about the film.
Hey guys, let me tell you a little story before we get started, because I realize that the premise of this film is kind of big and there's a lot of context to get through. So, once upon a time, the world that we lived in was not the world that we thought it was, because underneath our world existed the Shadow Realm, where there were vampires and werewolves and demons, oh my. But never fear, because there's an elite class of warrior heroes called Shadow Hunters, which protect us from all that stuff. Long time ago, their ancestors slurped an angel's blood out of this very special cup. Sounds disgusting, but go off. They also established a class system where they put themselves at the top because, what else do you do when you establish a class system? So it goes demons at the very bottom, downworlders, which are vampires, warlocks, werewolves, all that kind of stuff. All the cool people, basically, in the middle, and then shadow hunters at the very top. There's like 15 rungs between shadow hunters and everybody else, apparently, and that's that.
So this series starts out with our main girl, Clary. She is redhead main character Idas, and it is her 18th birthday, or about to be her 18th birthday. She's like, slay, 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 let's go out to the club. And her mom is like, can you please talk to me about something? And I have something important to tell you. And Clary is like, fuck you, Mom. I'm going to the club with my bestie Simon, my good friend Simon. My friend Zone very obviously has a crush on me, Simon. And they leave. This film is set in New York. Concrete jungle watching the main.
Stop it. Get some help.
So Simon and Clary, they head out to the club, and while they're at the club, Clary's mom literally gets attacked in their apartment, and these like scary cult circle men come in and they're like, rah rah, we need you to give us this cup thing, which is this cup that can turn people into shadow hunters and also control demons, because our cult leader Valentine, who you used to be married to and had a child with, wants it. And she's like, no. She takes little sleepy drugs, knocks the fuck out. The cult bros, if you will, are pissed off about this, obviously. They take her, leave their demon dog at the apartment. This happens, Clary's mom is trying to call her while she's literally being attacked. Clary blanks her so hard. Taylor Swift heard about it, wrote a song about it. When Clary realizes that her mom is literally in trouble, she finally races home, gets attacked by Cujo, eventually blows up this dog or demon, and hides in a refrigerator while doing so, which is very just like 1950s nuclear scare core. She, obviously blowing up the dog does not actually kill it because it's a demon. It can only be killed by shadow hunter energy, shadow hunter blades. So Jace, who is Jamie Campbell's character, as I mentioned, he comes in, stabs the thing. You might be wondering, where did he come from? How did he know where she was? So at the club.
But in the club, we all fam. What?
Clary sees Jace and his good buddy Alec, who's also a shadow hunter, and Alec's sister Isabel, who's also a shadow hunter, stab this guy who turns out to be a demon, but Clary doesn't know that. She just thinks that she sees somebody stab somebody else. Nobody else can see them because shadow hunters can only be seen if you have the sight, which is the term for like mundanes being able to see them. Think Harry Potter being able to see the Thrustrolls, but not only if you've seen death. Because she has the sight, and Jace is like, that's weird, that girl has the sight. Now he's stalking her. Whatever. That's how he ends up in her house, in case you were wondering. Clary begins a help me find my mother tour, and she goes to her downstairs neighbor's Dot, and she's like, knock, 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 Dot, let me in. And then they proceed to bully Dot, who's a grown woman.
Wait, you can see this guy?
Of course she can. She's a witch. Downgraded from a gingerbread house to a one-bedroom.
Do you know where my mom is?
She goes to Luke, who is her mom's boy toy named Troy, and while she gets to Luke, she hears him being tortured by the cult guys. In this time of him being tortured, he's like, I don't even care about Clary. I don't even care about Jocelyn, who's Clary's mom. Why would you think I care about them? And Clary's like, what the heck, bro? I thought we were cool. She leaves. It's a big misunderstanding, but we'll get to that later. After they have this misunderstanding, Clary, who is like been poisoned with demon blood from the dog earlier, just heard that the dude that she basically considered her father doesn't give a fuck about her, and also had her mom kidnapped, and is like having to deal with everything else that's going on, finally crashes out, which I think is very valid of her, very real. Just She's just a girl, Your Honor. And she wakes up in what the Shadowhunters call the New York Institute, or just the Institute. This is where, in normal Shadowhunter times, this is where all the Shadowhunters would be, but at the current moment, there's only a few of them. There's Jace, who we have met and talked about previously before, and then there's Alec, who is Jace's parabatai, which is basically like a brother soul bond. I don't think that it ever gets mentioned that much in the film. Like, there's a whole storyline about the fact that Alec is like in love with Jace, like in the gay way.
I'm not like homophobic.
And that like complicates the whole parabatai thing, but I think it's more of a thing in the show versus in the film. We also meet Isabel, who is like badass. She dresses like a sleut, but we love that about her. Icon. So they are the only like real Shadowhunters that are there. There's also Hodge, who is like an ex-Circle cult member under Valentine that is like trapped in the Institute. Unclear if it's just all in his head or if he's like actually got something in him that will kill him if he leaves the Institute, but they're basically the only Shadowhunters there. At this point, we get a lot of context lines, which I think I basically already gave you, so we're gonna move on. But the important thing to note here is that Clary, main character Itis, realizes that she is no thoughts head empty, aka she must have had a block put on her memories because she cannot remember like any Shadowhunter anything, which is how her mom kept her out of this world for so long. And that is a problem because everybody is trying to get Clary and either kidnap her or kill her because they think that she knows where that cup that her mom stole. Do you remember that? I mentioned that earlier, the one that can turn people into Shadowhunters. They think that she knows where it is, and now the entire Shadow world is like, girl with the red hair, we need her. Rutro Raggy, the little ragtag team of Shadowhunters plus Simon, for some reason. Simon, her best friend. Don't get me started on Simon. They're like, okay, let's go to see these really cool kids called the Silent Brothers, and they can help you out with unblocking your memories. So they go to, wait for it, the City of Bones. Yeah. We love a title drop. We love a title drop in this house. So they go to the City of Bones, and the Silent Brothers are like, ooh, we actually cannot help you, girl. This block is strong. It was put there by a warlock, presumably, and like, they're the only ones that can take it off. Clary is like, how am I supposed to find the warlock that put the thing on the thing if I didn't even know that warlocks were a thing until literally 30 minutes ago? Luckily for her, her mind remembered the inverted image of the warlock's name. She scribbles it down, Magnus Bane. So now it's time to party, aka the warlocks love to throw a good party. Downworlder raves means you have to dress like a sleut. Love that for us. It does mean that we get like several scenes after this where presumably the female characters are like doing a bunch of shit in like 4 to 5 inch heels, which one might call ridiculous, one might call badass. I'll let you choose. Yes, Gaga, you look so good. So they go to this Downworlder party. They're like, Magnus, can you please help us? He's like, I did like Jocelyn, but also this feels like not my problem. But also it kind of is my problem because if you get kidnapped, then we're all gonna fucking die. He's like, I can't help you. Like, it's just gonna fade on its own. And she's like, that sucks. Meanwhile, Simon, the useless little baby that he is, gets kidnapped. Is that victim blaming? He does get kidnapped. It's not his fault that he gets kidnapped. It is his fault that he's useless every other time, though. I said what I said. So he gets kidnapped by vampires because they want to use him to try and get to Clary. So now we have to go on a rescue mission. We infiltrate the vampire den, which is at a place called Hotel du Mort, aka the Hotel of Death. Love it. I love a silly, goofy name. So they infiltrate, they find Simon. Simon's like, rah, they don't want me, they want you. They have this big fight scene, which honestly, I think it might be one of my favorite scenes in the film. It's set to like crazy EDM music. It's so good. I'm eating it up. So they managed to make it out because at some point during this fight, despite the fact they're very outnumbered, werewolves come in and help them. That's what we're dealing with. in this film. Couple of important things that happen at this moment. Remember how I said Alec was gay for Jace? Yeah, apparently in the Shadow Realm, where there are vampires and werewolves and warlocks, oh my, it's not okay to be gay. At the werewolf, or at the vampire den, Clary strikes a werewolf with a knife. That'll be important for later. And also, Simon got bit by a vampire, so he's turning into a vampire. It's not a big concern right now. We do have other problems, I do realize, but it is what it is. Okay, I know I have not mentioned the romance between Jace and Clary this whole time. I said that, and you in your head were just like, oh, are they romantic interests? They are. They are. I'm gonna catch you up on like an hour of romance in the next 30 seconds. Strap in. Jace thinks Clary is not like the other girls. She's different. She's so slay. When she dresses like a sleuth to go to the Downworlder party, he looks her up and down, and at some point she has her hair up. He pulls the little hairpin out. He's like, your hair looks better like this. Also at the vampire den, when they get out, she stumbles. She falls chest to chest with this man. Okay. Also, he teaches her how to use the little blade that they use. I can't even remember what it's called. Oh, and they also have a cute little piano playing scene. Was that 30 seconds? So you might be wondering at this point in your head, they should get a room. And I'm happy to report that they do in fact get a room. They have this beautiful moment in this greenhouse because it either was or is now Clary's birthday. I cannot remember. They have this moment in this greenhouse. They kiss. We also learn that Jace's dad killed his falcon, snapped its neck because he tamed it instead of like training it. Lots of questions there.
Birthday, bitch.
So you just gonna bring me a birthday gift on my birthday to my birthday party on my birthday with a birthday gift?
Happy birthday.
And of course, because Simon is an incel, I'll say it, this causes problems. Simon is like, you want to be with Jace? What the heck? And Jace is like, oh, Simon was already in your bedroom when we got back to your room? That's so ridiculous. We wouldn't have all fit, which is a hilarious line. So after the emotional fallout of, Simon and Jace and Clary's romance not working out the way that she wants it to, she is playing around with like drawings and looking through old Shadowhunter stuff, and she sets a cup down on the table on a piece of paper and goes to reach back for it, but it's not there. It's a drawing on the paper that she set it down on. Very suspicious. Very cute director's note that they used a teacup as the unlocking of this power. Yeah, I'm eating that up. She reaches into the paper, pulls the cup out, whole and fine, and she's like, light bulb? I know where my mom hid the cup.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone?
What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
They go back to her Brooklyn loft apartment and she's like banging on Dot's door. You remember her neighbor? She opens the door. She's like, what do you want, bestie? And she's like, I need to see the tarot cards that my mom painted for you a while ago. Now we get a scene of Jace hilariously taking out a bunch of weapons. I love when they do that. Keep putting that in movies, please. They get into the room. Clary, main characteritis, instead of finding the tarot card that has the mortal cup, the cup that they've been looking for, the cup that Valentine wants on it, instead of taking it, putting it in her little pocket and going, see you, Dot, we'll talk later, she pulls the cup out of the tarot card in front of Dot, who, in case you were wondering, has been possessed by a demon and then very promptly tries to kill her. Girl. So they go back to the Institute and they're like, shit, Alec is not doing well. And in case you're wondering if Clary learned her lesson from the literal previous scene where she pulled the cup out in front of someone and immediately got attacked, she did not, because she does pull the cup out in front of Hodge, who I guess at this point you would have presumed that you could trust. He immediately is like, beep boop boop, Valentine, your girl's here with the cup. So Valentine is let into the Institute by Hodge, tries to take the cup. Clary pushes it back into the tarot card. She ends up on this desolate road where she almost gets killed by a literal demon child, but the demon child gets taken out by a werewolf who turns out to be Luke, yes, the boy toy of the mom of Clary. I'm sorry there are so many characters. It's so hard to keep up, but you guys are doing so good. So Luke is like, I'm sorry for what you heard, but like, you can trust me. I've actually been protecting you this whole time. And she's like, oh my gosh, you were the werewolf at the vampire den. And now I need you and your werewolves to come help me get back into the Institute because Valentine, who is, you know, crazy and also now summoning demons into the Institute by putting together a pentagram in the middle of the Institute, also actually has my mom in the Institute and we need to rescue her. Back at the Institute, it is chaos. As I said, Valentine is literally summoning demons. Alec is not doing well. Magnus shows up out of nowhere and is like, don't worry, I'll take care of him, because he thinks Alec is hot, which is so real, let me tell you. Me when I'm delusional over a boy. Isabel and Simon, in his second iota of helpfulness, are going to go find more ingredients for Magnus and like the drudges of the Institute, realize that there are demons being let into the Institute, lots of fighting going on, werewolves come in at some point with Clary, and there's a lot happening. Meanwhile, Jace is like off fucking around, is about to pull apart the pentagram because he's like, why is there a pentagram in the middle of the Institute? Good question, Jace. And Valentine's like, Jace, I am your father. Pause. Here are the things that we know. Here are the things that are true. Valentine was once married to Clary's mom. Valentine is in fact Clary's dad, biologically. It is true. Valentine did have a son. Him and Jocelyn did have a son. Jace is not that son, so you might be wondering, Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss, where did Valentine get this idea to tell Jace that he was his daddy? Hodge. Valentine was like, hey, Clary just escaped through this portal and now the cup is in this freaking painting and I can't get it out. How am I ever going to get her back here? How am I ever going to get her to take out the cup? And Hodge's first thought is to tell Clary and Jace that they've basically been in an incestuous relationship. What is wrong with you?
Brother,
So anyways, Jace is like, no way. And I have lots of questions because, like, why don't you remember what your own dad looked like? And there's this hilarious scene of Valentine switching the W ring that Jace wears and turning it around to make it an M because Valentine's last name is like Morgenstern or something like that. It's so funny because Jace looks so... Jamie Campbell was acting, okay? He looks so pained, but also, like... It's ridiculous. A W upside down is an M. Good job. We learned our alphabet. Clary, Simon, Isabel, Luke, werewolves are in the Institute trying to fight through the demons. We get this fantastic shot of Clary, like, drawing a rune on her hand and stopping the demons. It's a great use of CGI. Let me tell you something. If the entire film budget went to that scene, I'm fine with that. It's great. So they finally make their way back up into the main dredges of the Institute. Simon and Isabel go off to try to stop the beam of demon summoningness that is coming out of the Institute from the fact that there's a pentagram in the Institute. And Clary goes to go find her mom. Runs into Valentine. Valentine's like, I'm your dad and also his dad. And Jace, for some reason, lets him, like, bully Clary. He is like, I thought you said you weren't gonna hurt her. But Valentine is not known for his promises. Why would you trust him? Clary, at some point, gets the cup back out of the painting and is holding it in the portal. And Valentine tries to reach in and get the cup. And she's like, if you were my real dad, if you were my real father, you would know exactly where my deepest thoughts are taking the cup. Because that's how the portal works. You have to, like, really fucking focus and then it'll go where it's going. He doesn't figure out, obviously, where the cup is. She manages to kick him into the portal and then, like, stab the portal with the stele, which I didn't even explain what a stele was this whole time. A stele is another one of those, like, Shadowhunter tools. It's the one that they use to draw runes on their skin. Runes give them power. I feel like this is something that I should have mentioned at the beginning, but it's fine. They basically destroy the portal and send Valentine off to who knows where. And all is good? Question mark? All is good. for now. A little bit of falling action later, which includes, you know, getting the Institute back together, getting her apartment back together, Clary's, which she uses another drawn-on rune for. It's very Reparo, Harry Potter coded. We get Clary and Jace riding off into the sunset on a motorcycle. We get a line from Jace that's like, "I don't believe it, not in my heart," about them two being siblings. It doesn't feel right. Which, he's correct. But since the movie does end there, and since they never make another one, this is not information that I'm sure a lot of audiences of this film have. Especially if you just went in to go see the film and had never read the book series before, and you just saw it end on a cliffhanger of incest. I can understand thinking that the movie was a flop. And that's it. And honestly, at the end of the film, you know, since it does not get made into another one, you might have a lot of questions. Is Alec dead? What happens with Simon and Izzy? Are Jace and Clary siblings? Which I have said multiple times that they're not, because I just need you to know that. I need you to know that I'm not sitting here like, actually, this movie was really good, and it like ends with incest. Overall, I think it's a fun film. I really enjoyed rewatching it. It does feel very like mid-2000s to me, and honestly, I will say I think I almost prefer, for certain scenes, certain things, I prefer the like grittier, almost like uglier version of the story that the film tells versus the kind of like bubblegum pop sexy version that like Freeform does. The film is kind of lacking in terms of like diversity and stuff like that, and so I will say that I prefer the show's version, in which case they introduce more racial diversity and stuff and sexual diversity. It just feels like much more interesting. It feels much more up with the times versus perhaps some of the things that they felt like they could do in 2013. But overall, I would suggest giving it another watch, watching it with an open mind, and just letting me know what you think. Do you still think that it is a flop and you understand why it didn't get another one? Or do you feel like it could have been something? And that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so sorry if the lighting is absolutely insane, but I wanted to record this today. As I mentioned before, I'm going to put wildfire resources and whatnot down below. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!